topic of the week is going to be. But this week, I think, simply because I want to get on with the, I guess, get out with the old and in with the new, because we're planning on doing a little bit of Royal Rumble preview and a little bit of AEW talk and a little bit of Hard to Kill talk. Um, I'm gonna say that coming into Hard to Kill. Well, actually, let me start it off by saying this. Um, and Jeff, I know that you and I may have some different opinions on this, considering the way that you feel about some of the AEW performers. I mean, sorry, the I should say the Impact performers, and I share some of those same concerns as you do. But I would say that overall, this was an incredibly well booked show. And then we got to the match I thought was going to be a classic, and Hard to Kill became hard to watch. Um, and I just want to start with that because you and I try to be as positive as possible, but I think so. I just want to get the negative out of the way, really. And I thought last year Tessa Blanchard versus Sami Callihan won was, I believe, like my number two match of the year, something like that.
It was up there. I don't know if it
Top five
was.
definitely.
Yeah, I don't know if it was that high on my list, but it was definitely up there.
And this year they start off, the very first pay per view of the year for Impact Wrestling, and it is an overindulgent discussing mess of two performers, two characters who learned nothing from either of the previous two encounters with each other. I fucking hated it.
Well, and it wasn't just that. I mean, there was that was bad, yes. Um, but there were a couple other missteps on the show that we can talk about maybe later. But you're right. I think we need to start with this. But there was just not a whole lot of good in this match, and I mean, outside of Sami Callihan's performance as a heel, which I think he was a little over the top on this one, a little more so than he really needed to be. It was almost like he was trying too hard to make Tessa look even more sympathetic than she already was. I mean, this was already Tessa's night. And he kind of almost went a little too far in his heel tactics to get Tessa over. I don't know if you picked up on that too, but I mean, we kind of mentioned it earlier today that he would never be able to be his character that he is in any other promotion other than Impact, and that performance that he had just pushed it way over the top. I thought it was probably about 10 minutes too long. There were some spots that just didn't make any sense. And when you look at the rest of this card, it was a 23-minute match. The only other one that came close to it was one that we'll talk about in a bit here that was a 20-minute match. Otherwise, everything was right around 9 to, I think 9:19 was the shortest, 13 minutes even was the longest. So it's not like they really had a whole ton of investment in any of their matches. This one probably could have lost about 10 minutes of it, and we could have given at least 5 of that to that handicap world tag match, which I thought was good. We could have given another 5 minutes to Trey and Ace Austin, which I thought was phenomenal.
Um, I guess if we're talking about timing, I have no problem with giving your world championship match the top
If
the top
it's
number of minutes on the card.
if it continues to hold drama throughout the entire match, and it actually is telling a story other than just some guy being a complete douchebag and his competitor trying to overcome the douchebaggery. I mean, that's honest to
Yeah, I
God.
mean that was my big problem with it. Is it was a is we saw what happened at, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Slammiversary that these two faced each other for the first time, and we saw what happened in that match. We saw a very similar Sami Callihan in that one, who was being a complete douchebag, not giving Tessa any respect because she's a woman, all that kind of bullshit, right?
But
And how did that match end?
she also won his respect by the end of it, and it was dramatic throughout the entire match. You actually were concerned that Sammy was going to go complete Sammy and completely destroy her, but she was able to hold the story together, and he had respect for her towards the end.
right. So he respects her at the end. He hands her the bat. He hands her the ring as the show goes off the air. And now, 6 months later, that respect is all gone. He forgets how tough she is. She's still the plucky underdog who hasn't learned anything. She's not wrestling the way she should against a guy who has already beaten her when she wrestled the way that she wrestled him in this match. And neither character has learned a damn fucking thing. It's just fucking ridiculous. And not only that, but the for years actually, we went with seeing only one person be able to kick out of the stunt pile driver that he does, the cactus pile driver 99, or no, sorry,
97.
97. And that was Brian Cage. And Brian Cage is a machine. He can kick out of anything. It made sense for him to kick out of the move, but now Tessa Blanchard does it twice in one match. Tessa Blanchard does it twice in one match. So if and you know what, there's say what you will about this being sexist or whatever, but when a woman is kicking out of a man's finishing move that he's beaten countless men with over the years, he beat fucking Pentagon with it, for God's sake. Um, and he can't beat Tessa Blanchard with it. It's just flat out ridiculous.
Hold on, let me change the rating from PG. Since you already dropped the F bomb.
Did I really?
Yeah. Hey, we made it 5 minutes in this time. Oh, 7 minutes in. So we're doing good.
I thought
we're doing better.
I thought I said flat out ridiculous.
No.
Maybe I used the curse before
nope.
that.
You went the full X-rated there.
I did, huh? Okay.
That's all right. I'll let it slide.
Well,
no, but I mean, I agree. I
but
agree with you. This was such a travesty. It was. I was actually looking forward to a performance, but their story has kind of changed throughout time. I mean, it started with him just being kind of a jerk, and not respecting her, but then him winning her respect, or her winning his respect, and everything at the end of that match. But ever since then, he's still in his promos. He's still going, look, I don't care that you're coming after my title. I don't care that you're a woman anymore. It's not about that. You've proven yourself. Now I'm going to treat you like I treat everyone else, which was fine, and I'm okay with that. And that's the way he should be if she's going to be wrestling for the world title. But the fact that he just went completely overboard. I mean, I lost track at how many times he flipped her off, shoved his finger in her face. And how many more times did he just spit on her, or do whatever? It got to a point where it was almost crossing the line of even being a heel character.
he didn't wrestle her like he wrestles everybody else, though. He didn't. He wrestled her like she was a rookie, or she was she was a weakling, like a guy wrestling a woman, or like Bam Bam Bigelow wrestling Spike Dudley. I mean, that was the kind of vibe that I got from here. He
Yeah,
had no respect from her, which didn't make any sense considering the fact that he did before.
well, not only that he did, but that she, really stood toe to toe with him. They put, like you said last year, they put on one of the matches of the year. He really needed to tone it down a bit, I think. And like I said earlier to you, and I don't even know, did I say it on this yet or not? I can't remember, that his act would not fly in any other organization. If he went into any kind of mainstream, any of the top three in the world, that act won't fly. It just won't work. His performance there, I mean, yeah, it was a great heel performance, but it was almost too much at times.
Oh, it absolutely was too much in this match, for sure. I don't think it really matters whether we're working another promotion. He's not planning on going to another promotion.
No,
I mean, he's already been in WWE and hated it. I don't think he's planning on going to AEW or NJPW. I think he's where he wants to be.
well, even still, if they're trying to make Impact well, they've already got a national audience, but if they're trying to make them a mainstream national audience, these are the types of performances you can't have
Okay.
off your top performer. I mean, let's put it, he's wrestled the year 2 years in a row. He's he was voted that last year. I don't know, have they released their picks this year? I'm guessing it's either going to be him or Tessa, but he's clearly their best performer. He's clearly the top level in the thing. And now we're going to get another 6 month feud between him and Tessa until he gets the title back and whatever. But he can't go out there and put on those kind of performances if Impact is ever going to make it out of a super indie national, exposure or not. He's got to tone it down.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I mean, I guess I can see where you're going. What you're going. I didn't understand the point before that you made, but yeah, I totally get it now. Is yeah, he's not your poster boy for a mainstream audience for sure.
No, no, and I mean it's not, and I can respect that.
And
I truly
honestly,
can.
neither is Tessa.
I can respect his performance, and like I said, it was a good heel performance. I don't know if it'll be a great heel performance because I think a great heel performance could have been done without maybe not so much trashing your opponent in the ring, maybe trashing the audience a little more, maybe tone down on the amount of times you shove your finger in their face. I get the animosity between the two, but it almost seemed forced at times. And it just, I don't know. I was so disappointed in the match, not only by that, but the actual match itself. There was not a whole lot of psychology in it other than Sammy going after Tessa's leg. How many times did she hit the Magnum? And then, of course, I get it that the apron is the hardest part of the ring, but what good does it do to hit a Magnum there? You're not hitting your opponent on the ring, you're hitting your damn back on the apron. That did more damage to Tessa than it did to Sammy. Because how did those knees to the face hurt any more than the knees to the face on the floor or in the middle of the ring? It was Tessa that
Because
took
Jeff,
the
because wrestling.
because it was the apron, and the apron's the hardest part of the ring. So, it must have somehow stiffened her knees a little bit so that they got a little extra oomph when they kicked him in the face. God, that just annoyed me. That one annoyed me, and I've seen some other guys do it too. There was I can't remember who did it, but somebody did a stunner on the apron too, and I'm like, serious? All that did was hurt your ass, son. It didn't hurt your opponent. They bill this as the hardest part of the ring, but now they're not using it for offensive maneuvers that are actually going to take out their opponent. They're just using it for offensive maneuvers. So why is it? Am I to believe now that it's the hardest part of the ring when some guy's willing to dive off the top rope and put her back on that hardest part of the apron?
Yes, you're supposed to believe whatever they tell you to believe, Jeff.
I won't do it.
Okay.
So
You are
anyway,
a
that
bad wrestling fan.
I mean that was pretty much that it's weird when one main event match like that can really destroy the vibe of the entire show. I mean, I was disappointed in the whole Rob Van Dam crap that was going on, and I wasn't a big fan of that three-way Impact or the Knockouts match. Taya looked great, but Jordan Grace looked clumsy, and ODB looked out of her league, just completely out
Yes.
of her league. Ken Shamrock and Fulton. Fulton put on a hell of a performance, but to put over Ken Shamrock like that, I get it. He was the baddest man on the planet 20 some years ago, but for a guy of Mad, I mean, they did nothing but build up Madman Fulton about being a singles and technical wrestler and amateur wrestler and how many awards he's won and his performance after he supposedly had after he had his shoulder dislocated and everything. He came out of that looking 20 times better than Shamrock did, and Shamrock's the one who got the win.
Right. That was part of the booking. I thought that when I was saying there was some strong booking on this card, that was
His
one of the part of
booking,
what I was talking about. I think Shamrock had to win here just because. I mean, I hate saying this that Shamrock had to win, but just because if he doesn't win here after he lost to Moose, and he doesn't get some big victories, then he has no value to them whatsoever going forward.
he has no value.
Whereas,
He has no value outside of his name. Period. He didn't when he first came back. He's this is I'll give it to him. He looked in better condition this match, and he looked a lot better than he has previously. But he's had nothing other than name recognition since the moment he walked back into their company. And you can say that same thing about some of the other ECW guys that have come in. Rhino continues to put on great matches. But Rhino was still a high level performer at the top of his game in other companies, in other big name companies. He didn't take a bunch of time off. I mean, I guess Dreamer is Dreamer. He does what he does. But Van Dam. We talked about this before about how I've never looked at him as an innovator of offense. Of course, we ran down the list of names of people that were, but Van Dam just does not. He looks slow. He looks like everything is so timed with him that you're almost seeing the choreography a little too much out of him.
Yeah, I think that's just part of him being his age, really.
Well, yeah, and I mean that's what I'm
my
saying.
point, but my point about Shamrock wasn't that I thought that I think he brings a lot to the table. My point was that thinking as a booker, I think he had to win the match because if he doesn't, then he has no value to you whatsoever going forward.
I think at
Whereas,
this.
whereas, let me finish my sentence for
Oh,
once.
sorry, no, I don't like to. You don't make sense.
Whereas Fulton losing in the manner that he lost took nothing away from Fulton whatsoever. Now, I mean, I probably would have had him get completely pass out from the pain rather than actually nodding his head that he submitted. But I still would. But I still think him having his shoulder dislocated, fighting his way back, almost beating Shamrock even that way. And then Shamrock's look on his face like, man, that was a tough mother effer. I caught myself that time. Um, it was a great way to start the show and also a great way to build Madman Fulton up without him actually getting the victory.
You have to say
As
that
far
him.
as Rob Van Dam, let's talk about his opponent because I went from being very high on Brian Cage a year ago and to being to the point where I really don't want to watch that guy anymore. I don't know if he's constantly injured for real or if this is all part of a storyline so he can be with his wife and kid. But I'm really tired of that guy right now at this point because he was a lame duck champion. Now he goes in against Rob Van Dam and he can't even finish a match, and it just makes me want to scream now. Now knowing that he's on the cards.
Well, considering I heard a rumor that he signed with AEW,
Oh goody.
you might see more of him going forward. But anyway, back to Madman Fulton. One last thing about that is, I really like the fact that he tapped out with his forehead. That the way that Don Callis did, he just tapped with his face. I thought that was intriguing and fun.
It was intriguing, that's for sure.
Okay, there's nothing about that on. I thought I heard a rumor that he had signed. I might have been wrong. It might have been a dream.
You mispronounced Nightmare.
Well, that too. Well, he was backstage at was it All Out or was it the other one? Double or Nothing.
Yeah, he was backstage at Double or Nothing.
Okay, so I know they have some kind of relationship with him, so it didn't seem far fetched. But from what I'm seeing, it's not. Oh, doctors decided not to allow Brian Cage to compete because he had suffered a torn bicep in the weeks leading up to the show. So he wasn't supposed to be in a official match, and this was just a way to write him out of it so Daga could take his place.
Ah,
Bad
so
decision.
it is that he's constantly injured then.
Yeah, but still a bad way to write him off. I mean, you made him look. You embarrassed the guy that was supposed to be the face of your company, and yeah, they could have just done without this match to begin with. Oh, Brian Cage is injured. Let's give a few more minutes to Ace Austin and Trey.
I don't have a problem with it because yeah, I mean, because you get the spot. Rob Van Dam gets his spots in there. The crowd is happy about the crowd that wants to see Rob Van Dam is happy about that. You get Rob Van Dam and Katie over more with their character. You still get the girlfriend coming in there and helping out. So we'll see how that stable goes, and then Dogga gets a little bit of exposure too. So I mean, I really don't have any problem with the way they did that.
Yeah, I guess I just don't like the Rob Van Dam and Katie Ford's character. I'm
Well, you know what? I hated Katie Forbes' character before, but I do think she's toned it down a bit, and she's actually kind of become an asset now.
she has
If
from a valet um, point of view, but I just still don't like their. I just don't like anything about the whole storyline and their character together. I'm not a fan of it. It's another one of those things where it's. I mean, I get it. We've got two ECW bookers, but they're starting to look more like 1998 ECW than they are a real. They're trying to do shock TV in a time when people aren't doing shock TV, when it's not working anymore.
um,
Does that make
and
sense?
yet, no, I see what you're saying, but I was going to say, and yet, AEW's counter to that is by doing a thing where MJF's going to go out there and strap um, Cody 10 times on national television in 2020 when that's like an old WCW staple from 30 years ago.
Well, Ring of Honor just did it last year too. With but granted that wasn't live TV and national TV and everything. But you're right. Yeah, that was a
Yeah, but you get
WC.
my point, right?
Right. Well, no, I do exactly. I just I don't know. There were a couple of things on this. Like I said, there were a few missteps. I thought Sammy's character was a little over the top. I'm not a fan of Rob Van Dam, and to have him in the feature spot that he was in was annoying. And the Ken Shamrock going over and making Madman Fulton tap out like that when they had put him over so much verbally, just and like you said, he fought back. He had a chance to become he had a chance to become something special, and he just never got there. And a lot of it was because
I guess I look at this and I'm like, you and I, you said you had mentioned I think on last week's show, or maybe it was the show before that, we're going to be focusing mostly on New Japan and on AEW, and I agreed with that, but I also said and Impact. And when I look at this and I look at what they've been doing all along, and I look at what I see as their current assets, I look at this and other than the main event, I look at everything that they did, and I'm like, and I can see a point behind everything that they did going forward. I can see where it helps things for for where they're at and for the talent roster that they have right now. Do I wish they had a deeper talent roster of younger guys? Absolutely. But for what they have now, I look at this and I go, okay, so I can see why Shamrock winning made sense here, and I think they did the best job they could booking that match. If the idea was for Shamrock had to win, I look at um, I look at Taya at I'm sorry, not Tessa Blanchard, Taya Valkyrie winning the match for the Knockouts Championship, and I look at that as a good thing because well, I think that it's getting to the point where she should be dropping that title. I really want her to do it in a one-on-one situation, and especially not in a match involving stupid ODB. I think if Jordan Grace wins the championship here and she does it by pinning ODB, nobody gains anything from that long Taya Valkyrie championship reign.
well, I mean,
I look at Rob Van Dam um, going, winning here, and I think he probably wouldn't have if Brian Cage had been healthy. But I look at this and I go, okay, so Brian Cage is always injured. He's injured here again, but they do a good job putting Rob Van Dam's offense over because he puts him through a table, he hits him with the Van Terminator, takes out Brian Cage, and now Daga comes out and he gets a bit of a spotlight moment. Yeah, he doesn't beat Van Dam, and that would have been a great feel good moment, but at least he gets some exposure on pay per view. He gets the audience knowing a little bit about who he is when a lot of them didn't because a lot of them didn't watch Lucha Underground, and he hasn't really been featured on a major stage yet. So I mean, and then you get Rhino versus Moose in a very good match.
yeah.
Um, and in that spear versus spear setting. So I mean, when I look at this, like they're veterans that um, that we would rather they didn't have on their roster. At least they're using them to in some way, shape, or form, get over younger guys.
I would have been much happier with this had it been, even having Shamrock on there, had it been Shamrock, Cage, and Daga against OVE. I mean, we're lacking Dave and Jake on here. We're lacking the other two rascals on here. They want to get Daga and some of the young guys out there. You got Daga and OVE, and Brian Cage is a focal point. I know it would have been easier to write him out of the show and have him be replaced by maybe one of the rascals, and had Daga, Shamrock, and a rascal against OVE. I think you would have been much further ahead than having the two matches and one no contest that we actually ended up having.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
I
really don't. I really don't understand what they're doing with the Rascals in general. To be honest with you,
no, I don't either. They seem to feature.
That's one thing that's one point where I look at their Impact booking lately, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing with Wentz and now I can't think of the other guy's name.
The one that we like so much.
They were all out there. They were all out there at the end of that match, and I liked the way that at first I thought that X Division title match was really good, or I should say the Triple X Division title match was really good, and I thought they had a great result, but I like the way they're continuing the story with, Trey's mom and Ace Austin. So
right.
I think that's another again strong booking in that situation. And then you look at the World Tag Team title match, and clearly they're setting up for those two guys to have a falling out. Partly based on the fact that Rich Swann was able to come through when he had to carry the team, and Willie Mack couldn't.
Right. And I mean,
and we can finally get that ad hoc team out of the tag team title situation and get the North some new opponents too.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll say what I can. Considering that was a handicap match, and I'm not a big fan of Willie Max, that was a really good, strong performance out of all three of those guys. The North is one of my favorite tag teams out there right now, and Willie Mack, as much as I despise him, he went out there and put on a hell of a performance. And that ending sequence where he just kept being ping-ponged between the two of them was fantastic. I don't think
when you say you despise Willie Mack, that's because of the character moments that we saw from him last year,
and still see from him now.
Where he seems like he has a massive chip on his shoulder.
Where he wants to try to act like he has a massive chip on his shoulder, but everything he does and says proves that he really doesn't.
That indeed is a problem.
I'm not a fan of his, but the North, I love that ending sequence. I really did. I wish Rich Swann would have done a little bit better job of selling his disappointment. He looked more concerned that his friend just got beat than he looked disappointed that they lost the tag titles. But kudos to Don Callis for trying to sell that. There was
I kind of thought he looked like he was constipated, actually.
Yeah, he didn't look like he was disappointed. I'll say that much. Whatever the look was, but there were 3 or 4 times during the night when Don Callis went out of his way to try and sell an angle. The wrestlers, just the way that they were performing, and their facial expressions weren't really doing it. And that was one of the spots. There was a couple times with Rob Van Dam, and there was one more spot with ODB. So I mean, look at it. It's the old people that really shouldn't be there anyway that are trying not to be negative. Like I said, I mean, look at the positive of this. We got one of the, what did we figure out? It's like the 5th or 6th best match in Impact of all time in Eddie Edwards and Michael Elgin.
Something like that. I was shocked. I mean, I've never been an Eddie Edwards guy. You know that. Our listeners know that. But he's been growing on me lately, and I still think it's ridiculous that he's a Triple Crown winner in Impact. He's a Triple Crown winner in Ring of Honor, and I'm never gonna have the opinion that should have happened at the stage of his career it happened in. But I think he's to the point now where I wouldn't blink an eye if he won the World Championship in Impact, and that's one of my favorite promotions right now. So is really saying something that he stepped up. And then of course, Meg. What I love so much about this match, first of all, it had all the things in it that Tessa versus Sammy didn't.
Right.
It had great psychology. It had high stakes. Both guys had learned from wrestling each other. It had the desperation Eddie had of not wanting to lose, 3 matches in a row to Elgin. It had false finishes without having to oversell finishers, and Elgin. And the other thing, Jeff, that I don't know if I'm sure you did pick up on it, but it had that great. Both guys came up in Ring of Honor, and both guys have toured extensively in Japan. And this was a great blend of American strong style and Japanese strong style, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. These guys, they kicked each other's butts. They had great technical wrestling. They had great high spots. They had great drama. And then it continued the story of Michael Elgin's frustration, where he's constantly in these big moments, and he never gets beaten badly. He never gets hit with somebody's finisher. He never gets knocked out. But right when he's on the precipice of getting that victory, somehow, some way, he finds a way to lose. And I think just like it didn't have the long term storyline of the Naito Okada thing, but I think this whole thing with Michael Elgin, the whole thing with Eddie Edwards' story, this is really rewarding long term fan storytelling.
Yeah.
And I should say it's long term storytelling that's really rewarding the fan paying attention to what's going on with the characters. And I completely bought into this match, and I had texted you that I just watched a match that I'm sure will be in my top 10 by the end of the year, and I think coming in I would have thought that would have been Tessa versus Sammy, but I was kind of shocked that it ended up being Elgin versus Eddie, but awesome match.
Tessa Sammy 1 was hard to live up to, and Tessa Sammy 2 proved that. I wasn't thinking Tessa Sammy 3 was going to be a match of the year. When I first looked at this card, I didn't think anything on here would live up to that. Maybe Austin and Trey had a outside shot if they could both come with their A games, but Ace Austin seems on a level that Trey might never get to. And you brought up that about what are they doing with the Rascals. What they're doing with the Rascals is making that 70s show comedy skit out of them and throwing one of them into a decent position here and there. Dez was the last one, and now Trey. Eventually it'll probably be Wentz, and the other two will just be background players for whoever they decide to thrust out there. That's pretty much all the Rascals have become. But Ace Austin is a true star. And he goes out there and puts on these performances, and when you look at a heel character and what Sammy should have been, Ace Austin is more like what Sammy should have been towards the end, because he treated Trey with very little respect, but also at the same time was able to continue a storyline and not look like a complete douchebag.
His character is instead of a complete douchebag.
I know, but you know what I'm saying. Sammy has gotten to a point where like his heel character just was on how disgusting he is. Where Ace Austin it wasn't so much. I'm trying to think of how.
I know we usually have an ADD show, but we were talking about
Eddie Edwards and Michael Elgin, and it's funny you say that you've not been a real Eddie Edwards fan. I've never been a real Michael Elgin fan. So,
well, yeah, but you still love the match.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's fine. You don't have to love both guys to love the performance when they put on a great performance like this, and they put on a great performance.
Yeah,
so
they really did.
I was really really impressed with it. The hard hitting. I don't. Does anybody sell a punch from Michael Elgin better than Eddie Edwards does? How many times did his knees just buckle and he fell to the ground in a heap? Their back and forth,
Yeah.
the back and forth they had with the hard or with the knife edge chops and the just forearms. It just everything about it was great. Absolutely everything.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. And this is also this match. Kind of got me thinking, Jeff, that and we can talk about this later on. Obviously, this doesn't have to be like a one night discussion, but we might want to think about next year. Um, if we do have an award show with like doing a category of best match and best um, and best Japanese match,
You
because
said, dude.
I really don't know that I did say doo doo. Um, but my point was, as much as I love this match and I think it'd be my top 10 by the end of the year, we also have the G1 Climax to go. We have Dominion to go. We have Best of Super Juniors to go. So it may not stiff my top 10 by the time that those are over if we keep Japan and the U.S. in one category.
Well,
You know what I mean?
we also have a good 4 to 5 more match of the years coming, one-on-one match of the years coming out of Japan. At least 4 to 5. I mean, we're only in January,
That was
so
exactly my point.
you know, and then but and now I mean with 4, 5, probably throw UK in there too. North American promotions. Yeah, I could see if we did something like that. Would make more sense than try and lump them together because I just don't think you can. I think the wrestling that goes on in Japan, if you watch one of their major shows, you see 5 to 6 matches of the night, back to back matches. You don't usually get that in North American television, and we have to say North American because Impact is Canadian now.
Yeah, and I did say North American.
Yeah, I know.
I
I
would say
was
that. I mean, I could be mistaken, but I believe when we talked about our top matches of the year, I think only two of mine, I should say, took place in North America.
for last year.
But last year it was Tessa versus Sammy and Cody versus Dustin.
Yeah, yeah, you're probably right. That's probably all there was. I mean, we had the Coffee versus Dunn match that was in Europe, and then everything else came from Japan.
Right.
Pretty much everything else was either Okada or Jay White.
Oh, other than I should say actually there was one more. There was Moxley versus Omega.
Well, we did have that. Sans the tongue spot, we did have that Callahan versus Warner match too.
All right, fine. Half of them came from North America.
But regardless, we can say that there's enough to do a top 10 of each and have it easily be feasible. But I mean, we did talk about, you and I kind of went over this last night about about how you have Eddie Edwards and Elgin can see them being in the top 10 for the year. And I shot back that was probably their top 10. It was easily a top 10 Impact match of all time. And we even, we kind of went back and forth. You had Triple X versus AMW from that Six Sides of Steel in 2005. You had that great triple threat match with Daniels, AJ, and Samoa Joe in 2005. Then you had, there was an Angle AJ match in like 2013 or 2012, right before he really went in with his lone wolf character. And what were some of the other ones? I can't even think of them now.
I had Wolf versus Angle in there.
And you could have picked any
AJ
one of
versus
those.
Daniels in an Iron Man match.
I
Let me
mean,
pull up the list because I can't off my head anymore.
but just off the top of our head, we came up with maybe 6 matches that would be in this same league, and I would have put this one ahead of at least 3 of them. So for this match,
the other ones were Aries, Rude, Sammy Pentagon, and Sammy Tessa.
yeah. So I mean, and to have this one in, that to be that high on anyone's or on our list as far as the best matches in Impact history, that's saying a lot about how great a match it was.
It really was a great match. If you like strong style, old school storytelling, these guys put on a classic, and I would say go out of your way to watch that match, and just for historical reasons to see, the first time ever, it was. I didn't like the match, but just see the historical moment of Tessa winning the world championship. Just watch at least like the last 2 minutes of that match, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I was just thinking about uh, I don't even know what I was saying. Oh, Moose and his awful getup. Those were colors that should not be on Moose. I don't care what
Um,
he was holding an homage to. It just should not have happened.
Changing gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about Dynamite. A couple of weeks ago, you and I were kind of down on Dynamite, and we kind of like rolled the discussion into New Japan, and a lot of it, honestly, and I don't remember if I actually said this during the show, but watching that episode of Dynamite, I kind of felt like I was watching an episode of Raw, and it really kind of bugged me that they might be going down that path. So it was nice to see them kind of get back on track this week on Dynamite, but at the same time, um, I don't get having your number one contenders for the tag titles in a fatal four-way match to determine who the number one contenders for the tag titles are going to be.
Yeah.
And I don't get um, having a mini tournament to decide who's going to face Chris Jericho for the World Championship when clearly you're already building a Chris Jericho versus John Moxley program, and Moxley's already the number one contender.
Yeah, and that's
I
think
just don't understand what the hell they're doing.
Was it last week I texted you that about how it doesn't make sense to have a ranking system when you're just gonna, like you said, have a mini tournament to find out who's number one, and then have fatal four ways every week to find out who's gonna be the number one contender. What's the point? We already
Yeah, you
that
did,
was the whole
and
point of the ranking system.
right. And I get wanting to have every match feel like it's important and things like that, but you don't need to have mini tournaments and triple threats and things like. I mean, we've already seen it happen where people have lost matches and they're no longer the number one contender. So just do that. Why do you have to have like little tournaments to set shit up? I don't understand that at all. I mean, they could just as easily have had, they could have had it set for John Moxley versus Pac at on the ship on the Jericho Cruise was going to be the number one contenders match, and then just say, well, but if Darby Allin beats Pac or Sammy beats Moxley, that's going to throw them out of that ranking. I mean, that's to me that's the more logical way to do it, and then you might have a dark horse sneak in there and get that title shot. But I just don't think you need to set it up as a mini tournament, and I think if you're going to do that fatal four-way match to determine the number one contender, you don't have the top contenders in that match.
No, let's just get rid of the ranking system altogether. I mean that there's no point in having this ranking system if you're just gonna. Who was the number one contenders for the tag titles? I know.
Going into the match, it was PNP.
Okay, and now they lost their shot because number four just jumped over them. So why even bother having the ranking? Because they haven't gotten their shot yet, have they?
Wait, Omega and Hangman were number four coming in?
Yeah.
How is that possible? They were 2-0 as a team.
They had become the number four tag team, and that's what got them into that tournament, according to what the announcers were saying last week.
That's ridiculous.
This is what I'm saying. Let's just get rid of the ranking altogether, and just have our mini tournaments and have our fatal four ways.
Yeah, I mean they're unbeaten and they've beaten some strong teams, so I don't understand how they would be number four.
No, well, they were.
I know I get what you're saying, but I don't understand it.
The whole ranking system doesn't make sense to me. There's no rhyme or reason to it. There's really no. I mean, it's not like it's a point system. You can have a guy who's undefeated who's ranked lower than a guy who's 1-3 just because the guy's one win was against the world champ. It just get rid of the whole ranking system altogether and just do your little mini tournaments and do it like if Japan honestly has the best formula for crowning number one contenders. They really truly do. It's either a grudge match or it's they win the shot by a tournament.
Well, I mean, to be fair, sometimes will just come out and say, I want a shot at your title. And it's like, okay,
Well, yeah, like that
but
falls
it always
into.
makes sense because it's always somebody who's actually worthy of getting a title shot. So,
But
um,
that's where it falls into the grudge match type thing, where it's like this whole Kenta gets title shot because he came out and attacked. He didn't deserve it, but he came out and attacked, so he gets thrown next in line. It makes sense. I don't like it, but it makes sense.
um, even more than that, to me though, I kind of look at what's going on with AEW, and we just talked about how like while you may not like some of the logic, there's actually logic involved in the way Impact's Hard to Kill was booked.
Yeah.
You can look and you can see where things are going in the stories. I don't feel like there's any path to anybody being the next tag team champion or the next women's champion.
In AEW.
I mean, I thought there was with Chris Statlander for the women's title,
Right.
and then they blew that up. I thought there was going to be with the Dark Order for the tag titles, and then they blew that up. So I look and I see, yeah, John Mox is on a path to be possibly the next AEW World Champion, and clearly they're setting up something between Hangman and Omega, except for Pax also in that mix somewhere also. And then we're going with MJF versus Cody, and that's all great. But when you actually look at what they're booking everything else, like who's going to be the next top contender for Rio's championship? Is it going to be Shida? Is it going to be Statlander again? Is it going to be Rose? Is it going to be Britt Baker? I mean, it could be any of those four, and any of those four would make sense.
Right.
And then you look at the tag title situation. Well, I really expected it was going to be Santana and Ortiz taking on SCU and hopefully beating those guys because nobody else apparently can, because apparently SCU is the most unstoppable team in the history of teams. Um, but then you have Santana and Ortiz not get the victory in a top contenders fatal four way match. So it's like, where do they go? I just don't see any actual path for it, and no storyline being set up for it, which kind of bugs me.
Well, maybe they can have another rank and another four-way match.
But you get my point.
No, I do. I totally get it.
I mean, you can't really have any emotional investment in it when there's no. Um, I mean, we've talked before how like AEW they feel like they're trying to be like the Japanese style booking on an American promotion, and I think that may be where they're going is that anybody can get a title shot at any time, but it feels really weird
It
to
feels
do that in the United States.
it feels well. It just feels forced. Like Sonata didn't just get a title shot. Sonata got title shots because he beat uh, he beats Okada in tournaments. So that's why he got title shots. He wasn't just handed a title shot because of his win loss record or because of some silly ranking system.
Right. So now his last two. Well, let's take it back. Let's take a step back. He got the title shot. He got the title shot after Okada won it at G1 Supercard because Okada said after he barely squeaked by him in the New Japan Cup final, he was going to get the first title shot at him. And then he got the second title shot by beating Okada in the G1.
Well, and didn't Tanahashi do something like that too with his redemption tour, where he was going through
Probably.
challenging people that had beat him recently? So stuff like that makes sense, where they're just trying to prove that hey, I still got it, I can beat you.
Yeah. Yeah, or you might beat somebody in a tag match, or it's just I'm disappointed with what I'm seeing with AEW right now. I guess is my. I mean, I thought Dynamite was a good show, but I also thought like it kind of like threw everything kind of up in the air with all the championships.
Yeah, I think they have some great performances. I think they've got some top-notch wrestlers. I think they're going in directions with certain people. Maybe it's just that they're still too new. I mean, they've only been on TV what 3 months now, 4 months? Is it 4 months? They really. I mean,
Yeah, it
there's
started April 2nd, so yeah, there's February. By the end of this month, it'll be 4 months.
Yeah, October. You said April. Yeah, so we're
I'm
looking
in
at
October.
we're looking at about 4 months of TV to really build up. So they're still kind of in their infancy in that. I just don't know where they're going with a lot of it. They've really only got. I mean, they're doing a lot of the multi-level booking and overlapping storylines that the Attitude Era was known for. With the you got the Pac and Omega, and then you got Hangman thrown in there, and or Pac and Omega and Hangman thrown in there. You've got Cody in there, the whole Elite thing, plus Cody and MJF. So they're doing a good job with their top, I don't know, 10 stars on booking, but they're really dropping the balls on all the supporting cast. I mean, Darby Allin just kind of shows up, gets a title shot, and then disappears. And then comes back 2 weeks later, and okay, now he's going to face Pac, and if he wins, then he gets a title shot. It's just there's not consistent booking with some of the younger guys.
I really am kind of pulling that for Pac to win that match against Moxley now.
I kind of am
I mean, I
too.
know it's not going to happen, but it'd be a great way to like throw a monkey wrench into things and make everything feel chaotic um and like nothing's guaranteed. If Pac wins that match and he's the one that gets the title shot at Revolution, and then that kind of leaves John Moxley out in the cold
But
after this feud going on with Jericho. You
but
know,
if we do that, then we're getting another Moxley rant about how everybody's trying to keep him down by putting him in dark matches.
yeah.
And that was
A
another thing.
frustrated Moxley is a fun Moxley.
Yeah, it's a much better Moxley. But speaking of Moxley, how about Sammy Guevara's performance against him?
How about Moxley joins the Dark Order?
Was he one of the ones that they were talking about putting a mask on in that
He
promo?
wasn't, no, but I think that'd be
Okay.
something if Mike Moxley, like he loses his shot at the championship. He has like no matches to go to, so he's like, I didn't want to join the inner circle, but I guess I'll join the Dark Order for a while, see how that goes.
No, I don't think that would go for well. I just don't think that would work so well. Um, oh, we're kind of running. The other thing, yeah, I think that was pretty much all I wanted to really say about Dynamite too. I mean, they've got some good performances.
Sammy Guevara was awesome.
Again, he was one of the better parts of the entire show.
And when we were talking about apron spots that didn't make any sense, well, I think doing a meteor to your opponent and having them land straight on their shoulder blades on the apron does make sense.
Yeah, that one I was okay with.
Yeah.
One of the few times I've seen, and it's funny how, now I'm just disgusted with the apron spots. Not even looking, they've got no meaning anymore. When it was just 6 months ago, we were afraid for Kota Ibushi's life.
Well, that we also talked about at the time that if they keep on doing it, just like the tope con hilos and the topes to the outside, they're going to start losing their meaning if we see them all the time.
And we see them at least twice a match, not twice a night, twice a match.
Yeah.
The apron spots have become the new suicide dive.
Right. Yeah, and we don't need to see them anywhere near that often.
And not only are they becoming, the new suicide dive, they're also, like I said, this Tessa Blanchard one just made absolutely no sense at all.
Yeah, and she still won the match, even though she knocked herself out by doing that stupid move.
I don't know.
I don't know, man.
We're kind of running out of time here, so
I know you
want to.
Go ahead.
I know you want to talk about Royal Rumble, but it sounded like you had something else to say. So.
No, that's what I was going to say. Is like I didn't want to talk a lot about the Royal Rumble. I just kind of wanted to say that I looked at the card coming up, and there's a couple of things that struck me. One of them is that 6 years ago we had a match at the Royal Rumble where Daniel Bryan faced Bray Wyatt, and it was one of the great matches of that year. But it also kind of knocked out Bryan, and it kind of led to everything going on with the Yes Movement. And now here we are 6 years later, and both guys are multiple-time world champions, and they're facing each other at the Royal Rumble for the Raw. I think it's for the Raw, right?
Well, no, it's
I don't know. One of the
SmackDown.
champ.
The Universal
The
title is
Smack.
now
Okay,
on
so the
SmackDown.
SmackDown Championship. I think that's pretty cool. One guy, for years, people thought he was never going to be gonna make it to the top in WWE. Even when he signed there, people were like, well, you're a great wrestler, but you don't have the personality or the mic skills to make it to the top of WWE. And then the other guy, he was booked so poorly for such a long time, and we never thought he'd make it to the top. And then he did have that run, but it was basically just a run to put Orton over at WrestleMania for no damn reason.
Right.
Um, and now, I think it's fun that these two guys are wrestling for the world championship for the actually in the only match for the world championship at the Royal Rumble this year.
Yeah, which is also ridiculous. Your top title isn't being defended at one of your major pay-per-views because the guy who holds it, who only shows up once every 6 months, decides to enter the Royal Rumble.
Well, that was the
Stupid.
other thing. It's like 5 years ago, like you and I kind of talked about this. We were like, wouldn't it be awesome if like Brock Lesnar came out there and he just decided he was going to be number one in the Royal Rumble and he just started throwing people out as they came in.
Right.
And now again, 5 years later, they're actually doing that, but he's the champion.
Right. And now
Makes no sense.
we're taking the
No
top
sense whatsoever.
we're taking the top title off a major pay-per-view just so he can stand in the middle of the ring and throw people around. It's just dumb.
Wait. You're going to call the Universal title the top title in the company?
He's not the Universal. That's the WWE title. Remember, he won it from Kofi, and they moved it immediately over to Raw. And then the
Oh,
Fiend won the
oh, okay. Yeah,
Universal
so it is the
title.
top title. Yeah, my mistake.
The Fiend won the Universal title from Seth, and then they immediately moved him over to SmackDown, changed from red to blue.
Of course they did.
Yeah, because they had to have the top title on Raw with Brock Lesnar.
And then, if I'm not mistaken, isn't there a rematch from last year's Royal Rumble as well? Isn't it Becky defending against Asuka again?
Yeah. Yep. And then we got Lacey Evans in a title match. We've got Roman Reigns and King Corbin doing God knows what. Sheamus makes his return, so that should be fun. I, I guess we know what we're getting with WWE at this point. And it's looking at this, there might be two good matches on here.
And guys, you might be wondering, why are you guys talking about WWE on Kingdom of Honor? Well, the reason is because this coming Sunday is both my favorite and least favorite night of the year. It's my favorite night of the year because it's a night that my late brother Trav and I always used to get together every year to watch the Royal Rumble. I mean, even if we had crazy things going on in our lives, we made sure we got together to watch this show. And it's my least favorite night of the year because it's also the night that I miss my brother the most. So we'll be getting together to watch it at Jeff's place, and we'll be talking about it next week on Kingdom of Honor as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to get a chance to watch Worlds Collide before that. I do think it's weird that Worlds Collide's main event is an 8-man tag, but whatever.
Is WWE lacking for talent? I mean, I know they're not taking anybody from NXT this
How
year.
could they be? They have like 800 people on their roster.
Then why is everybody doing double duty? Everybody that's actually in a match is also in the Royal Rumble.
Oh, are they?
There's also nobody coming up from NXT, which makes sense because NXT is its own brand, but if we're going to have NXT as their own brand, why are they not on this card?
I'm glad they're not on that card. I really don't want to see
There's
NXT keep mixing up with WWE. I think that doing it at Survivor Series was good enough, right?
And then we're what 5 days away from the Royal Rumble, and we've only got 4 people announced for the women's Rumble match.
Oh, well, now you just ruined it for me. I totally forgot there was
What? Charlotte, Alexa, Nikki Cross, and then Sarah Logan just announced that she'll be in it on her Twitter.
Actually, last year wasn't the women's Rumble better than the men's Rumble? Or am I
Yes.
misremembering that?
No, it was
Okay,
much,
well,
much better. Yeah.
that's right. Oh yeah, and last year in the men's rumble there was actually a woman in it.
Yeah, Nia Jax.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's at least two women in it this year. I see Bobby Lashley and Bobby Lashley. So we might get Bobby and Nia in there as the women this year.
Wait, Bobby Lashley's a woman now?
I'm not a fan.
Oh. Well, I think Santina should show up and win the women's rumble.
Santina, Santino.
Well, he was Santina when he was a woman, though.
Oh,
Remember?
that's right, he was, wasn't he? As long as he pulls out the Cobra again.
Well, if he's a woman, he should be keeping his cobra in his pants, shouldn't he? But it tush.
Yeah, I don't even want to say that.
Anything else,
Alright.
or you want to hit the? Or you want to let everybody else listen to us at?
Um, I got nothing else. I mean, kind of covered it all, or disappointment, and the fact that if you do get a chance, anybody gets a chance and wants to go watch anything from that Hard to Kill show, you've got to watch Michael Elgin and Eddie Edwards. That's a must watch. Other than that, the rest of it, I guess, watch at your own discretion. I'm throwing my hat in for Ace Austin. I thought he had a hell of a performance. The Moose Rhino match was better than expected. Um, the North is always good, and Willie Mack put on a hell of a performance in that. So I mean, there's some great things to take away from this, and of course, Taya Valkyrie is just great regardless. So there's some great stuff to take away from this. But if you can only watch one match, take 20 minutes out of your life and watch an Eddie Edwards Michael Elgin match, and it'll be definitely worth it.
Yeah, I definitely endorse that. I mean, I thought it was a good show overall. I mean, yeah, there were not all the matches were great, but I thought it was a good show overall. Um, yeah, a good, if you intellectually watch professional wrestling, I thought it was a great show overall, a good show overall at least. And yeah, Edwards versus Elgin was great. And I know I'm saying this on we're exactly 3 weeks into the year right now, and I know this is going to sound like a really ridiculous thing to say, but this is my third favorite match of the year so far, and I can't imagine it's going to drop out of the top 10 anytime soon.
Third favorite. I guess I really only have five that I would put. I don't know if I'd make it my third favorite, but definitely my top five.
Yeah, for me it would be Naito versus maybe fourth, because Naito versus Okada I have higher than you do,
Right.
and I really loved both the junior heavyweight title match and the world title match from um, Wrestle Kingdom Night One. So it's somewhere in my top three or four.
And I still have that Darby Allin Cody Rhodes match, or Cody match from that first episode of Dynamite too, up there.
It was good, but I wouldn't. But I don't think it's got the lasting. It doesn't have the
No,
lasting impact for me that this one does.
no, and of course Tyler Bate and why can't I think of his name? Jordan Devlin from UK. I thought was just a fantastic match as well.
Yeah, and again, we talked about my problems with that one last week. So
Yeah, yeah. So I mean,
we
yeah,
agree.
I'd say
We agree a lot, but we don't agree all the time.
no.
So.
That's why I cut you off, is because you're disagreeing with me. All right, guys. I know I'm going to say it again. Just go to Patreon, patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. You can hit up all of our socials on there. Twitter is mine's at Regi Co-op. He's at Zanman LLP. Use hashtag DAD, hashtag KOH to find us easier. And of course, YouTube. You can get the links by going to our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. You can throw a little donation our way to help us out to continue to do this, get some exclusive content at the same time, and find the link to our YouTube site where you'll want to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you can get anything that we do on there. And we will be doing these shows are going live on there, as well as live on Lords of Pain Radio, and also we're planning on doing at least one exclusive YouTube show per month. So that's coming soon. So guys, check that stuff out, and love you long time.
Programming note: last Friday was the very last episode of the right side of the pond here on Lords of Pain Radio, long time staple here. So, recently over the course of the last year, we've lost The Late Show with Steve. We've lost, wait, The Late Show was, no, I totally forgot the name of it. Maybe it was The Late Show. What the fuck? Whatever. Wow. Um, we've lost The Doc Says. Um, we lost One Nation Radio, and now, of course, we've lost The Right Side of the Pond. But we do already have a replacement lined up. This is coming Friday. Our boys, The Mystic and Mistfan, are back. This time with NWA Power, the Legacy Series, where every week they'll be talking about the previous week's NWA Power, and then eventually they're going to be adding us where they're talking about the best of that show. Best of Women's Division, best of 10 Pounds of Gold, that kind of thing. So stay tuned to that, and also, stay tuned to tomorrow is both Dynamite After Dark, right after Dynamite goes off the air, and Sports Entertainment is Dead, which has 4 more weeks to go. And then on Thursday is, of course, Imp's LOP Radio Adventure. And then, like I said, we'll be back next Monday to talk about Royal Rumble and possibly Worlds Collide if I get a chance to watch it. So that's all we've got. We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
goodbye.